Adrian Newey has made his choice. He will not be joining Scuderia Ferrari, opting instead to go to Aston Martin under Lawrence Stroll's leadership. This news is set to be officially announced in September. Autosprint and Italian daily newspaper Corriere dello Sport, through an article by journalist Fulvio Solms, broke the exclusive news. The details include a €100 million deal, complete control over every phase of the Aston Martin Formula 1 project, and a structure that impressed the former Red Bull designer. Added to this is an exclusive relationship with Honda for the power unit, particularly relevant for the regulatory changes that will be introduced starting with the 2026 Formula 1 Championship, and the ability to continue working at his own pace, not far from home if one can say so. There remains uncertainty about the drivers. It is more plausible that Lawrence Stroll will attempt to bring Max Verstappen to Aston Martin, at least for the 2026 campaign. It is worth noting that Adrian Newey and Max Verstappen have known each other for many years, since the three-time world champion began his career at Red Bull. But the real question is another. Why did Adrian Newey, who had a pre-contract, namely a document just as binding with the Italian team, a fact confirmed by several sources in the last few weeks, eventually decided to say no thanks to Ferrari and instead choose to join the team of Lawrence Stroll? In reality, things are a bit more complicated. According to some paddock whispers, it wasn't so much Adrian Newey making a grand refusal, as Ferrari in the end deciding not to continue their persistent pursuit of the most successful designer in Formula 1 history. The Maranello team had previously attempted to recruit Adrian Newey for the first time in the early 1980s, then about 1 decade later with Jean Todt as team principal, half-heartedly in 2014 with Stefano Domenicali as team boss, and now once again. This time, even Piero Ferrari, the founder's son, executive vice president, and a person with a great deal of knowledge about Formula 1, got involved. Curiously, Ferrari has made these approaches to Adrian Newey every 10 years. However, it seems that the legendary car designer presented a long and significant list of very detailed requests, including numerous decision-making prerogatives. If the Maranello top management had accepted these terms, they would have bypassed not only the team principal, but also, to some extent, the chief executive officer, Benedetto Vigna. In the end, this convinced Frédéric Vasseur, most likely with the approval of John Elkann, to withdraw from what had probably already become a bidding war between Ferrari and Aston Martin, after other potential contenders like McLaren and Mercedes had quickly dropped out for various reasons. Thus, for the 4th time, the British engineer turned down Maranello's offer. Or rather, the two parties could not reach an agreement. If the reports from Italian daily newspaper Corriere dello Sport and Autosprint are accurate, it is hard to entirely put the blame on Ferrari. A brand like Maranello could hardly tolerate such a broad delegation of powers to Adrian Newey. That said, a lot of fans and paddock insiders believe that a mind as brilliant and creative as Adrian Newey's might have been worth any request. Also, it is worth reflecting on the fact that Ferrari's final organizational structure, including who will replace Italian aerodynamicist Enrico Cardile, the former Ferrari technical director and head of aerodynamics department, is still unknown. The motto for John Elkann, Benedetto Vigna, and Frédéric Vasseur seems to be "the team matters the most." Let's hope that the Maranello top management is indeed right, though given the recent years, there are serious doubts about whether this will be enough to mount a challenge for the Formula 1 world title in the upcoming seasons. These questions cast a troubling shadow over Ferrari's future years in Formula 1. John Elkann had promised that Ferrari would win the championship before reaching the historical drought of 21 years, as the previous one dates back from 1979 to 2000, when Michael Schumacher and Jean Todt brought the title in Maranello, starting a beautiful period of dominance for the Italian side. Ferrari fans are understandably anxious as that milestone approaches. Therefore, the great and definitive no has arrived, likely marking Adrian Newey's last professional experience before a golden and well-deserved retirement from the world of motorsport. Unless there is a last-minute plot twist, which seems highly improbable if not impossible at this stage, the decision is final. But as we know, reality often surpasses imagination. Ferrari team principal Frédéric Vasseur recently stated that every time the Maranello team focuses on a specific area, they manage to improve. The French manager pointed out that pit stops were a disaster 2 years ago, which led the mechanics to practice 2,000 pit stops during the winter. As a result, they came back in good shape. Fred Vasseur also mentioned that in 2023, Ferrari lost too many points due to a lack of opportunism, but they have since made significant progress in this area. In the end, communication in sports is important. However, the attempt to use it to beautify one's own situation only works in certain cases, and this is not one of them. Why? Well, Ferrari has not won a title since 2008. These kinds of discussions can be relevant if you're part of the teams that sail in the midfield and are slowly and gradually trying to climb up. However, if each F1 season you start with the idea of winning or at least trying to, these statements sound like an intrinsic surrender. Instead of presenting your mistakes to the media, discussing why you can't win yet again, why the updates aren't working, and everything else, you prefer to focus on the positive aspects within the team to try to divert attention. It's about shifting the focal point of the issue. However, the effect achieved is just the opposite. The fear of addressing certain topics, the really important ones, results in silence falling over these issues. This timeless classic is used by every human being in any context where they are judged to protect their position, dodge criticism, and promise something that they themselves are not sure will ever be realized. This reasoning highlights what has been happening at Ferrari for many years now. It doesn't matter if the players change because the script remains the same. Certainly, in the interest of accurate reporting, it must be said that under Frédéric Vasseur's leadership, Ferrari has shown some improvement compared to Mattia Binotto's period, despite the fact that the final results remain unchanged. Ferrari continues to occupy an uncomfortable position, watching with annoyance as others collect triumphs. This is obviously unacceptable and cannot continue. Something needs to change. Perhaps it is not even about the aforementioned key figures, since many technicians and engineers, after leaving Maranello, have thrived in more organized environments elsewhere. They have proven their worth contrary to their performance at Ferrari. Is Maranello the limit for Ferrari? We are not referring to the mere physical location of the factory. The sporting management has been there for years, and this is certainly not Ferrari's limitation. The Schumacher era has amply demonstrated this. If the geographical location makes some technicians, including Adrian Newey, uneasy, as if living in Italy among the hills of Maranello is a burden, so be it. Success in Formula One is possible even without the legendary British designer. Ferrari itself did it around the turn of the millennium, and Mercedes has done it more recently. Ferrari's restriction is not related to its location on the map, but to a non-critical mentality that focuses just on the peripheral problems. If you do everything well but one thing does not work, that is precisely what you need to address. That is what you need to talk about to the media. Focusing on perfection is the only way in Formula One to return to winning ways or at least have a chance of fighting to win.